Hello, everyone out there, and welcome to Meta Game Show Host. That is Meta, M-E-T-A, Game Show Host, not Met a Game Show Host, which I have not done to many game show hosts yet, but maybe soon. Who knows? Maybe I will meet more game show hosts.
Okay, but are you going to spell out game show? Because
No, I was going to ask the same thing.
Like, you want me to spell GAMESHOWHOST?
I just
Did I
wanted
win
to
the
see.
spelling bee?
I just wanted to see if you could do it.
yeah, same.
Anyways, in this podcast, what we're going to do is we're going to go over lots and lots of game shows. I've watched way too many game shows growing up and still in my adult life because nothing's more fun than watching people fail to win lots of money on live television when they could have won it all. And I'm going to tell you how they could have won it all and how you could win it all if you ever find yourself on one of these probably canceled game shows that we're going to talk about. So there's some practical application in case they reboot Legends of the Hidden Temple and you're an 8-year-old, you could get on there and win. But today we're going to be talking about Cutthroat Kitchen. But first, let's introduce my guests. Go ahead, introduce yourself. Allison.
I'm Allison. Hey, I'm here.
Do you like game shows?
I think I do like game shows. I'm trying to remember like specific names from game show categories that I've watched. I know they exist. I like game shows. I just cannot think of any at the moment.
Do you like cooking game shows especially?
No, I don't think so.
Okay, great. I'm glad we got you here.
Well, okay. I can't think of any other than Cutthroat Kitchen. I like all of Gordon Ramsay's. I like MasterChef
Chopped?
and stuff. Which one is... I do kind of like Chopped, actually.
What about Kitchen Roulette? No, nobody watched Kitchen Roulette. Don't answer that.
Great British Bake Off is my favorite show. Is that a game show?
I think so.
Oh yeah,
Does somebody win at the end?
I love Master Chef Junior too. Like, love it.
Specifically the kids ones?
Specifically.
Well, when we get to Master Chef Junior Edition, I'll be sure to have you on for that.
Yeah, please.
Ian?
All right. So hi, I'm Ian. I do love game shows. I used to, when I was like, I don't know, somewhere between like sophomore and junior year of high school, I went through a phase where I had just a ton of trouble sleeping. Never left that phase actually, but I watched like the game show channel forever when I couldn't sleep, and I just watched there's just a bajillion. Like, do you ever remember Dog Eat Dog?
I remember Dog Eat Dog.
Or
In
Cram?
fact,
or
my favorite GSN game show, which we'll get to eventually, is Lingo.
Lingo, or is that the one with Chuck? As what's his face?
Yeah, it's the
Chuck Berry?
five-letter words.
Yeah.
5-letter words.
That was
show.
old. I watched a bunch of old game shows, but I really actually super especially love cooking game shows because I still watch those. Cooking game shows are great. My very favorite is Iron Chef America, because it has a whole mythology behind it, and that's great. Actually, my least favorite reality show of maybe all time is the Great British Baking Show, because it causes me so much anxiety. These people are being degraded and like just torn down for making people cookies.
It's the only show I've seen where everyone is obviously having fun.
I don't know. I see the fear in their eyes when Paul Hollywood goes, "Did you even pretend to be a cook before you came?" Like, I'm so sorry.
No, Paul Hollywood has to be the least intimidating judge on any game show ever.
I don't know. I'm just going by how they quail before his presence.
There's that new game show that came on Netflix that is like very similar to Cram, where you spend 24 hours before the game show counting quarters.
No, I hate the concept. You talk about this and I hate it.
And it's very, very great because very clearly no one is having fun but the host.
Right.
Like literally everyone there is just in hell.
No.
But speaking of being in hell, let's talk about Cutthroat Kitchen.
Cutthroat Kitchen.
So Cutthroat Kitchen, you guys, for those who don't know, is a cooking game show. In the standard format, we will have 4 contestants, and we will whittle them down dish after dish until there is but one remainder, and that will be the winner. But the twist, of course, is that you're given all your prize money at the beginning of the show, which is $25,000, which is actually pretty good for a cooking game show. Most of them give out $10,000. I think Chopped is 10,000, pretty standard.
I mean,
So $25,000, and you can spend that money during the competition to just really ruin the days of everyone else in the show, and sometimes including yourself.
Often including yourself.
So of course, you are given a topic, a food topic. I guess what would it be called? It's not really a recipe because they don't tell you how to make it. They just say like.
It's often just a genre, even, and sometimes it's just like make me sweet breakfast, or like which is really a strength of the format.
Yeah. I saw one where it was like make me breakfast pizza, and I was like, you mean like that hockey puck you used to get in elementary school if you were like too early from the bus?
Oh
breakfast pizza. That seems unfair already because you're asking people to make a recipe no one wants to eat.
Well, so this is actually like I think one of the things I'm sure we'll get to this. An entire bit of the strategy here is the judges. Like so like when the judges list their criteria, the adherence to the topic isn't actually one of the criterias. It's reminds me of.
Reminds me of. Right. Reminds me of
Yes.
is always what they say.
Yeah.
But you're given a topic. Let's say it's a ham and cheese sandwich, and then you are given 60 seconds to literally take a little shopping cart, like the hand shopping carts or baskets, and fill it up with as much stuff as you can in the pantry while everyone else is also doing this, and then get out of the pantry. If you fail to do this in 60 seconds, Alton Brown will decide to look through your basket for what he thinks is your best thing and take it away from you.
Oh, I didn't see any of those.
It doesn't happen a lot.
It doesn't happen a lot.
Well, I want to point out that those pantry doors are the coolest doors I have ever seen in my entire life.
Aren't
They're also not real.
They're not real. No, they don't have glass in them. They're just like a metal barrier. But they slide so smoothly, and there's such a even mechanical action on them. I want them for everything.
Huh.
They are very good. That's for sure. After you get your ingredients, you put them on a table and proceed to go to the auction phase, where 2 to 3 things will be auctioned off each round. If 2 things are auctioned off, that means there'll be a third thing that gets auctioned in the middle of the round. Do you want to just hit some highlights, guys, on some of your favorites of these sabotages, or least favorites as far as Allison goes?
Oh my gosh. So the 2 that I watched, there was one where they had to stir their ingredients in a saxophone. That was like a specific episode. And then the other one was entirely circus themed.
Oh yeah, they often have themes like that.
Yeah, so it's just the whole episode was circus themed. Like the judge came out in a clown outfit, and one of the things was like the chick had to cut all of her food on a tightrope, and then at the very end, she bought they literally had to drive around. The 3 other people competing had to drive around in a small car, like a clown car, and then they each had to cook their own meals, but they were in different parts of the kitchen, so they just had to like work together to kind of like cook things in their own stations. I like cooking shows about the food. None of this is about food.
No.
The final round is always 2 people left, and it is a dessert always, and you have after you get your ingredients, you just go straight to cooking, and Alton will then deal out the sabotages, as they're called, during the cooking. So you have to be able to bid while you are cooking.
I think it's important. Like one of the most important parts of the show is the final round is a dessert round, because if you aren't familiar with cooking shows, you have 2 different kinds of chefs, like almost universally: people who can make food and people who can make desserts, and they are not the same.
Right.
Right.
Like we'll see, like on Top Chef, which was for a long time like the premier cooking reality competition TV show, right? It's like it was the one that wasn't on Food Network. It was the Bravo cooking show, and it was like people like, yeah, sure, I can souffle a duck in there. I can confit a duck in 20 seconds. Yeah, I can make a spaghetti out of old saltines. But it's like, make a cupcake, and like, do I look like a baker? Have you? And they just get so offended when they ask you get asked to make desserts. Nobody can make desserts unless that's your only thing. So the final round is always super challenging.
Yeah.
Cooking is an art, and baking is science. At the end of the day, a pinch of flour and a dash of baking soda is not going to make a cake. You need like exactly 1 cup and like 6 ounces of baking soda to make the reactions happen that make a cake. So
I feel like that's a pretty common opinion of people who don't bake.
There's some truth to it though. Like the difference between a cake and a brownie is how many eggs you put in.
Yeah, that's actually pretty true.
Oh, the difference was the picture on the front of the box when I buy it at the store.
No. Buy a brownie mix and put in too few eggs. See what happens. Buy a cake mix. Put in too many eggs. See what happens.
Oh. But the point is, at the end, there's only 2 sabotages, and you get to cook immediately after coming off of the shopping. So that means you have less time to get your ingredients taken, as is a common occurrence, as we'll see. Very often, the sabotages involve either taking tools, taking ingredients, or taking time.
I would say that, so there's I think there's four categories of sabotages broadly. You have, like you said, there's tool denial, time denial, ingredient denial, but there's also dexterity denial, and that's a big one.
Yeah.
Dexterity denial?
Dexterity denial is a huge one.
It is.
Like put on like the boxing gloves or something?
Like, I have replaced your dominant hand with a whisk.
Like 3 men.
That sounds like all upside.
What? Not if the what you're trying to make is roast beef.
3 men in a golf cart is a dexterity one.
The challenge is specifically not whisked eggs.
Right. Yeah. It's a downside, but or like my very favorite sabotage is Tiny Kitchen.
Tiny Kitchen is always a great sabotage.
That one was
but so there's lots of, and of course these are blended often. So often you'll get like mixed time/resource denial of some kind.
I think and another one is always like a harvest. I guess that's more ingredient denial. But even deeper into ingredient denial is like, not only do you not get your ingredients, but you have to spend time to scrape your ingredients out of something stupid.
Right.
Like literally, like you have to like get dunked in this dunk tank by a kid, and at the bottom of the dunk tank is little plastic containers with your ingredients in them.
Oh my
It's sort of
God.
like when Dwight gets all of his stuff put into the office vending machine.
Huh.
I think that happens in one of them. I'm pretty sure one of them is like you get handed a bucket of pennies and dimes, and Alton Brown has all your ingredients in a vending machine.
So what is the joy of the show?
The joy of the show is trash talk. It is so actually I think this is a good question. In Chopped, Chopped, I believe personally is the fairest cooking show on the planet. There's a lot of stress in filming because filming is difficult, but in terms of the actual challenge presented, they know the possible themes beforehand. They have some ability to practice. It's basically fair, but so if you lose, it's all on you, really. It's you are the one who has, like, you had all the same possibilities as every other chef, and if you lose, it's your fault. In Cutthroat Kitchen, you can always walk away with dignity because, hey, maybe it wasn't your fault.
Right. At the end of the day, you can go like, well, if only I didn't have to balance my whisk on my nose the entire time.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think it's for people who enjoy being sassy and showing off like some personality flair, because it feeds into the ego of the players. And I don't know if you ever watched more than like 2 minutes of any cooking show besides the Great British Bake Off. It's all about ego. American cooking is all ego. So it feeds into that.
I guess that's probably why I don't watch many cooking shows. That's probably why I like MasterChef Junior, because the kids aren't like bullying each other, and they're not getting bullied because they're literal children. So I feel like that might be I might just like the food part.
Right. If you watch cooking show, like competition shows, like a lot of the times you have to just like presume, like, especially with like, the long form ones like Top Chef, is you just have to treat it like The Bachelor or like RuPaul, and that every contestant is a character, or else it's unbearable.
I see. Yeah.
So what if I told you, because as is the purpose of this podcast, we're going to talk about how to win this game show.
Yeah.
What if I told you didn't need to know how to cook?
I don't believe you.
I think that this game is actually a economy and money management game, as well as a resource management game.
It's a good theory, but I'm gonna combat this a little bit. Definitely. So at the end of the day, you need to know basic cooking in terms of executive chef level stuff, because the judges are often left with nothing but your cooking. So I just watched an episode where somebody lost because so first up they had no sabotages whatsoever. They had zero sabotages. They lost because they left on papaya skin. And they didn't know that way. And then she's like, well, that's bitter. That's not how you make a papaya salad at all. Absolutely immediately disqualified.
Wow.
Well, okay. So you need to know a little bit about cooking. But if we do, so I play a lot of games, a lot of Magic the Gathering. I watch a lot of game shows. I love getting into like little bits of game theory and stuff like that. We like to do, especially to see like the greater game, we need to start at like work backwards through how somebody won.
Right.
And so you look at the last round a lot. And at the end of the day, normally the person with more money wins the last round.
Just a random note, by the way. Mm-hmm. The money, it's not real.
Yes, of course.
It's all paper, but it's great because if you watch, every time somebody takes a bundle of money out of the suitcase, there's always at least one guy who sniffs it and goes, he's sniffing paper.
Oh.
I also assume that people try to like slight some of the hundreds out of the bills. Like they've got to try, right?
Right.
Like
anyways,
pocketing them?
Yeah. Because like you lose all your money, right?
Right.
Yeah.
It just can't matter because like it's all the money is tracked electronically. So
yeah, it's not real money, and they're of course paying attention. Like you can't pull more money out. Everybody knows how much money you have.
I also think
you don't get to see how much money everybody else really has, but you can know because you know whenever it gets spent.
Right.
Yeah.
I am.
What was that, Ian?
I just lost it. Never mind.
Okay. So there's 2 sabotages in the last round, and for the most part, unless A, somebody makes a huge mistake, or B, somebody literally with the most money just goes, nah, I don't want to bid on that. That happens a lot where people just like get to the last round, they have the money lead, something comes up, and it's like, instead of bananas, you have to use banana runt candy to make banana cake. And like, the chef is just like, yeah, you know what? I think I can do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And then, of course, it doesn't work. But if you have more money at the last round, you can bury your opponent in 2 sabotages for sure and win easily.
Now, so here's one thing that so an incentive and a pressure on this. All right, there is a certain amount of lower expected value from Cutthroat Kitchen than any other cooking show. Because they don't allow you to advertise your business when you go on, which is important because my personal theory on this, I haven't confirmed it anywhere, is so I know the producers do not require, but they highly encourage trash talk, and nobody wants to trash talk if they're representing their business, right?
Right.
So they don't tell you which business everybody, but like, so let's say you're on Chopped, you could scrub out, absolutely lose, get nothing, and still get over $50,000 in value just from like, if you're in LA where there's a billion people going, oh, I remember that restaurant, and people will come into your restaurant, right?
Yeah.
It's so, but on Cutthroat Kitchen, what you leave with is what you leave with. You cannot expect a business boost. And that means that there's a certain reserve that people have when spending sometimes. Right.
And that is even a deeper meta element of the game, is that you don't get the extra revenue from advertising your business. Very good. Thank you for going above and beyond, Ian. I didn't even have that written down.
Oh, yeah.
That's very good. So there is resentment to spend your money, but if you don't win, you don't get the money anyway.
Yeah, you get nothing. It's true.
So you need to spend. I don't think you can win by just like not spending your money. That happens a lot. People just like, they just don't spend their money and they're like, nobody will get mad at me. And then they just get a random sabotage and lose anyways.
Right.
Yeah.
I definitely think like it's a certain reluctance on the part of people to like say, or not reluctance, it's a confidence of people going, I can deal with that. Like, I don't know when we want to talk about judging, but judging is such a wild card element of the show.
I have all my strategies written down for how to win this show. And they don't all necessarily have to be the same, like you don't have to use the same things, but different strategies to win this show. Be the one girl in a group of men because all of
Often
the men
good.
are going to just like testosterone chest puff and they're all going to go at each other. So guaranteed make it to the second round. Other option is never spend your money on the first thing that shows up, because it's also television. And because it's television, they're trying to up the stakes every time, whether it's small. I mean, even if it's small, no matter what, they need the show to continue on and to get more interesting. So they will up the stakes every single round when they do introduce, what are they called again? Sabotages. So never do it on the first one. Second and third, that's totally fine. But don't spend your money on the first sabotage. And then the last thing is, I have officially decided after watching like 4 episodes that the utensils are the most important thing to hang on to. Because if it's going to be like a food sabotage, they still have to give you food that is somewhat related to the original thing. Like if he like he's I think the one the carnival one was like that you had to make corn dogs, so he gave him like hot dogs and popcorn and pretzels and all that kind of stuff. So all of the things to make a type of corn dog are there. He didn't give him like a salmon fillet. So take the food sabotages, but never take, like, always make sure that you don't get the utensil sabotages, because I saw that more than anything is what sent people home, is when they couldn't properly make the food.
Right. This is also a great, like, the 3 criteria for judging are usually something like how does it taste, right? And then the third one is, does it remind me of the topic?
Right.
And then the second one is presentation. And so presentation is actually worth more often than does this even seem like a corn dog. It's like, so first off, know how to cook so it doesn't taste like bleck. And then, but presentation is big. If you don't have a knife and you cannot cut up, if you can't cue your mangoes, and it's like, this is squashed mango salad. They're like, this looks like snot. That's huge points off. So I think utensils, it's a vital point.
So a big thing here, because once again, cooking can be subjective, right? But at the end of the day, you don't like get anywhere by making a stellar dish. You lose by making a bad dish, right?
Yes.
Generally, yeah.
So you just want to avoid making basic mistakes, like not knowing to like peel a papaya or something like that.
Right. This is why I think like just basic love, like chef level cooking, like I graduated from Cordon Bleu is necessary. Like
I don't think it's necessary. I really think that like I took an online cooking class, or I went to a cooking class with my significant other a couple of times, and I know basic food words. I think literally is all the cooking knowledge you need to get through. Because of the sabotages.
I do think that it doesn't need to be like cooking knowledge. This show is actually about food chemistry. It's not about whether or not you can actually like cook up this meal correctly. It's about how you can make this meal when all of the different foods are swapped out. Like I was watching one where they had to make fruit smoothies, and the guy got all his food substituted for street food, but he had to make fruit smoothies, so he had to use like a watermelon feta salad and all this other stuff. So what they talk about on the show all the time when they're cooking is like, I'm going to use this and I'm going to mix it with these spices and these ingredients to help bring out the sweetness or to help add this to the savory. So it's much more about like the science of food than it is about cooking a good dish.
It's like, so I think one of the things you have to think about is it's hosted by Alton Brown. And Alton Brown, who is also the host of Iron Chef America, like he's into the actual way that food works on a chemical level. Although, funnily enough, he went to film school. That's what he originally did. But then he's like, so what, now that I've been to film school, what's missing from TV? And he's like, there aren't any good cooking shows around. So he made Good Eats, which is all about like how to, like, if you're like a connoisseur type who doesn't just want to make something that works, you want to make it the quote unquote capital R, capital W right way. Good Eats is what you do. Right. But he's just really into that. So I think like, a lot of the challenges are based around that. So, like, I think you're absolutely right. Like, being able to just say, I'm going to use the sugar from the banana runs, and I'm going to crystallize them, and that's going to be a replacement for my marshmallows or something.
Yeah.
It's definitely about like food interplay and food knowledge on a very deep, like that's just a basic requirement for being able to get around sabotages.
Yeah.
In fact, I believe every sabotage actually does have an answer, especially the food related ones. You'll actually see on many episodes, Alton Brown will actually aside the camera, and he'll be like, if I were them, I would just snag the meatballs out of that canned spaghetti and meatball, rinse the tomato sauce off, and with a little pan fry, nobody would know the difference. Like he tells about like what he would have done with that sabotage. And so he has planned, like no sabotage is going to just insta-lose you for the most part, at least in the food swapping category. And I do agree completely with you, Allison. Food swapping is the easiest one to come back from.
Yeah,
However,
for sure.
I do think when you're buying sabotages, there's a certain type of sabotage that comes up normally every round, and it is the quote-unquote 3-for-1. There is a sabotage that'll always come up that will affect every opponent.
Oh, yeah.
As opposed to just pick somebody and give it to them.
Right.
When you think about games and when you think about like resources like the money, you have to remember, because this is not a 1 versus 1 player game, this is not how you spend your money better compared to your opponent. This is a 4-player game, which means if you have $25,000, you are against $75,000.
Yeah, okay.
So it's important that you get your value out of your money. The one targeted, like the targeted ones, they might look a lot worse. However, you should not bid on those because one, whoever you give it to, if they live through the sabotage, they're coming back for revenge at you.
Yeah.
And two, you get more bang for your buck when you get to do something to everybody. And also, the 3-for-1s are normally always the utensil ones. They never make one person give up utensils. They make everyone give up utensils.
Well, so I saw so sometimes they do. The one I just saw, they had they were trying to make a tie dish. So somebody made them wear neckties, each one that had a different utensil, and they could only use the utensil that was on the necktie.
Oh my god!
So that was a singular targeted utensil one. But so I do think in general what you said about the 3-for-1s is right. It comes up. So I have 2 main strategies that I believe are the key strategies to winning. Number 1, don't trash talk. Don't paint a target. Don't. This is I think what is called in game theory a perverse incentive, where your game incentivizes something against the format of the game. But like if you don't trash talk, you don't get anybody on your back. You also just don't talk, because sometimes if you're sweet, they'll go like, well, she thinks she's better than us. It's like you want to just in general don't talk, don't interact. That way nobody targets you. And second, I think never, ever, ever, and this goes back to what you're saying about the 3-for-1s, never bid on anything in the first round unless it's a 3-for-1. Because in the first round, all you have to do is not be 4th place. And that means that anything, and so third round or second round and third round, so third round, I think eventually we're going to see the correct, like you mentioned before, the correct strategy in third round is to bid on everything. Second round, bid strategically, but first round, never bid on anything.
I think you need to bid on the 3-for-1s if they show up.
Right.
I was watching one where it was the breakfast pizza once again, and it was the second thing that came up for auction was a replace all of your opponent's utensils, and you get to give them, one person gets a pizza peel, one gets a pizza cutter, and the other one gets the shaker that shakes out the chili flakes.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You get one of those, and that's your utensil.
Right. Oh. Okay.
And it's like that is something you want to bid on, because you get to keep your utensils and you get to make everyone else have to use only one utensil. That's not going to be convenient. I do think that the targeted ones, I don't think, especially in round 1, you don't want to bid on it's like somebody's going to have to wear these silly goggles or something.
Mm-hmm. I do think so. There's definitely a time to bid on after round 1, because like I said, all you have to do is not be 4th. And in round 2 and beyond, if you've been sabotaged, it is often correct to bid on a second sabotage that could just screw you over if you think somebody's likely to just give it to you. Like let's say you've trash-talked a bunch of people.
I have a big point for round 2. But finish your thought.
Like if you've got a target painted on you and somebody sabotaged you once, people are eager to get you out of the game. It is often worth bidding on something that is super incompatible with your current sabotage, because if there's a certain amount of counter spell the sabotage by making sure you're the one who gets to assign it is viable, but I think it's kind of a corner case.
Right. So I'm wanting to break this down, especially to just to bare bones math models here, and just receiving sabotage lowers your chance of success, just in general. I think in round 1, you can be more effective by just hitting the big 3-for-1 sabotages because it's going to lower everybody else's chance. All you need to do in round 1 is be not the worst.
Mm-hmm.
Round 2, I think we get a little deeper strategy because there's a certain item that comes up for bid almost every round 2. At least every other episode, you see it, and that is the teamwork sabotage.
Right. This is a time denial strategy.
This is a very specific where you give it to 2 of the 3 remaining people, and they have to do something together.
Very
Very
I haven't seen one of those.
Whether it's ride in a bobsled, or if it's you have to, one of you has all of the utensils and the other one has all the ingredients, and you have to make 1-for-1 trades.
Right. This is the one I saw was it was a rickshaw where you have to pull the other chef around, and he can only cook or prepare while you are pulling. And this one was actually in round 1, which does complicate things because it's a 2-for-1, not a 3-for-1, and it's definitely a gray area in terms of my vote, my bidding strategy.
Yeah, that one's definitely an outlier. But for the most part, in round 2 is where they like to do the like 2 people have to do something together.
Right.
Yeah.
And that is something that you need to bid on, because every episode I see, one of that pair is going to do fine and the other one is going to lose.
It just comes down to who can be selfish.
Right.
Who can be selfish, exactly.
Because there's no enforcement on making the other person have time, as far as I can tell. Maybe there is. But it certainly doesn't seem like it. So if you can be selfish, you can basically just knock somebody out.
One of them I saw was like both of your baskets got mixed together and you had to sumo wrestle each other. The winner got to pick first from the basket of mixed ingredients. And the guy just took everything. Like, not literally everything. He had to leave like half the ingredients, but he just like, yep, and you're not getting any of the cheeses.
Right. So he played it just to sabotage the other guy?
No, it got put on them. The other person.
I know, but like when they both had to sumo wrestle each other, that guy's decision wasn't to benefit himself, but to sabotage the other person by not leaving him with anything, right?
Right. He decided right then and there that he won the sumo wrestle, so he was going to just like, sorry about ya.
That's a much better option because there's also the whole element of the judges are wildly inconsistent and don't make any sense half the time, and it drives me absolutely nuts. I think the most important part of the show or the judging should be how similar is it to the item that you were told to make, because it drives me nuts when it's like, all right, you have to make a cookie, and then some guy just like he made like a granola puck. I don't know how to describe it. A granola bar, basically. And I think it probably tasted better, but the other guy made an actual cookie. And I think the judge was like, you're out because I don't like your cookie as much. The taste isn't there. And I'm like, that guy didn't make a cookie. If you can just make anything you want and it can taste good, then no one should ever try to make whatever the actual item is. They should just make whatever they can that tastes good.
It's always like, can I actually swallow this? Followed by, does it look swallowable? And then it's like, am I reminded by? Another thing is, it's the smallest edge I think you could possibly get in the show. Never say the words, this is a deconstruction of.
I don't know. So this is in other cooking shows for sure. That's an automatic out because everybody knows that's bull. In this one, so I think there's a certain amount of generosity in this show that is brought by the judge. So I do agree with you, Allison. I think the judges are the most fickle and inconsistent part.
Easily.
Because what's funny is these are standard Food Network judges, right? So they show up on other shows like Chopped and like Iron Chef.
Yeah.
And so like Simon Majumdar is my favorite judge on
a different show.
No, on this one.
Okay.
Because he's the mean judge on Iron Chef.
Oh, okay, I see.
But this one, he knows it's fun, and so he comes at it with like some lightness. He comes at it, and so. But I think it kind of comes back down to what you said earlier, Allison, about it being reality TV, and they're always in it for the edge and the pop, right? It's they know it's not a fair show, and so they're like one episode I remember something that it was make a barbecue lunch, right? One guy through different challenges, he had like 2 sabotages put against him. It's worth noting that the judges are not allowed to know about sabotages, and they are instructed not to care about sabotages if they are given any information about sabotages.
Okay.
So it's like they aren't the judges can't take your sabotages into account. But so like through a couple sabotages, this guy had all of his proteins taken away, and he just made baked beans.
Okay.
But he had like bacon fat, and he put bacon fat in the beans.
Nice.
Meanwhile, somebody else just like charred their steak or whatever to an absolute crisp. It was basically it was just like a poor New York strip. It was like that they seasoned with like green pepper or something. And at the end of the day, the judge said, "These baked beans reminded me more of barbecue than your badly seasoned meat did."
Yeah.
And it's like, how do you plan for that?
Yeah. I mean, I think that's fair though, because at least baked beans are a part of barbecue lunches to some degree. But like,
edible.
A granola bar is not a cookie. Get that out of here. And to be fair, it was the female judge.
I definitely think it was like for sure, like, but it was because the storyline of the man without meat beats the man with meat in barbecue. I think that has to factor into the judging.
Yeah.
Well,
the judges are such a wild card.
Assuming the judges are all perfect and impartial, assuming everything, once again, I know we started with a really hard one for this series. Next week, we're going to do much easier because we're just going to do the math of deal or no deal.
See,
nice.
But I already have a problem with what you're going to say, Ricky. Go ahead and say it, but I have a rebuttal.
So, ultimately, I think this show is about spending your money and not making mistakes. And I think that the number one mistake that is made time and time again, to the point where I've seen such incredibly risky plays, such as sabotaging yourself because of this mistake, is forgetting something in the pantry.
Right.
Oh. Don't do that.
I'm conflicted about this one. Because I think I tried looking this up and I couldn't find anything that confirmed or denied this. It is my observation that there must be rules on pantry items. Because no chef ever goes in and takes all the proteins. Even though they get there first and could just sweep them all into the basket before anybody could wrestle them out of their hands.
Yeah, there must be.
So I think a lot of the times when somebody says, "I forgot blah," it's a cover for some sort of behind the scenes rule.
So I can agree that there's probably rules about like bogarting all of the something. Like clearly it's like go make crab cakes. And if you walk in there, you can see in the camera that there are four packages of like crab legs, 4 packages of like crab meat, 4 packages of imitation crab, right?
Right.
So clearly you're not allowed to just take all 4 of the crab leg packages for yourself, right? So,
yeah.
But still, I do believe that most of the pantry nonsense is real. And if you guys have not seen an episode where somebody just forgot, there's one where a woman... she gets out of the cornbread competition and she doesn't have any cornmeal.
Right.
Oh, yeah.
And she like literally buys a sabotage to replace all cornmeal with like popcorn. And she gives it to herself.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All right. So I think Ricky, you're wrong. You think the show is about economics, but I think that's very like last thing on the list to think about. And all of my strategies boil down to the fact that you have to think about the entertainment value first, because that's what the show is going to care about the most to begin with, which is why all of my strategies are things like similar to Ian's, which is at the very beginning, 1, be a girl with 3 men if you can, if not rip, but otherwise don't antagonize any of the other people in the first round, because you just have to make it to the third round and you're already there. Plus, you only have to make like 1 dish better than the other person. So make it through the first round and do that by not antagonizing anybody. Because people are going to compensate for you not doing that by attacking each other for good television. Because I know for every single game show, you do not get on the show without them going, "We need you to make good TV." So You have to think about that going in, which is if I don't try to make good TV, they're probably going to leave me alone. So that's one of the first strategies. And then, oh my gosh, I'm trying to remember what my other strategies were.
You've exceeded my meta. You've gone to the point of like, you are now gaming the casting director.
Well, I mean, but that's how you win game shows, though, is to know exactly how they work.
I definitely agree. The guy who took like 2 or 3 million from Press Your Luck, he like showed up and like had a whole fake story about how he's an ice cream truck driver.
Oh, right. My other point is why you don't buy the first Sabotage. That's it. Because again, the show, you need to up the stakes and the value of the entertainment, so it's going to get worse as it goes on. So
I also had so this is a point that actually contributes to both of y'all's points. It's an economic point and a good TV point. An extra edge. So we talked about how the third one is often presented in the midst of cooking, right?
Right.
I think so. There's a fifth denial, and that is money denial. Since you're already dealing with a known situation of these people have sabotages, this person is desperate. We've already got the trash talk out of the way, right? When somebody is presented with a mid-round item, I think it is almost always correct to see somebody who's desperate for the mid-round item, either to make up for their own sabotage or to try and gain ground by sabotaging the person who sabotaged them, something like that. There's usually an evident person who is very interested in this item. It is almost always worth bidding once or twice on the item just to make them bid more.
yes, I saw this happen, and it was amazing.
Entirely. I have this as a note in the third round. We can move on to the final round. Do you guys have any more notes on rounds 1 and 2? I wanted to really tackle that final round.
I do. Oh, so I do have one. I just remember, guys. I just made a note. I do have one. I will state my opinion that I don't think every sabotage has an answer. I especially think the dexterity denial ones don't have answers a lot of the time.
Yeah,
I do think you're right about most of the food swaps and most of the ingredient denials. Have time denial. Time denial is either that's what really comes down to like how good of a chef are you? Because if you're just a bare bones chef, time denial will ruin your day. But if you're
time denial is just plain and simple, you get less time to cook than other people. No matter what stupid thing you have to do in the meantime, it is just you have less cooking time.
Right.
I think they're always worse if they're like, I saw one where it was like it had to interrupt in the middle. That's the worst. If it's a time denial at the beginning, nowhere near as bad.
Right. Like the most simple time denial happened in the episode I watched for refreshment, which was just he had a stoplight. When the stoplight was red, the chef couldn't cook. When the stoplight was green, she could cook. And it's like funny. So once you've been cursed with a time denial sabotage, it basically always boils down to, can you take the plan you had at the beginning and simplify it?
Right.
And I'm not sure on this. I know in every other game show, cooking game show, Chopped, Next Food Network Star, Iron Chef America, there is unstated, unshown planning time for dishes. Like it's usually about an hour where you are after you've gathered resources, we're just allowed to just like pen and paper, just go, what the hell am I going to do? Mm-hmm. And I would bet Cutthroat Kitchen has something similar. So it's really, I think time denial strategies come down to, can I deviate from my planned dish with agility? Yeah.
I agree entirely.
So what do we rate the most severe? I keep forgetting the word. You guys keep saying it over and over again. Huh? Sabotage. Yeah. On least offensive to most offensive sabotage, what is that scale?
Most offensive is, in my opinion, teamwork sabotage, because it is a death sentence for one of you.
Okay. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. My opinion goes to extreme dexterity challenges, like your right hand is replaced with a whisk.
Okay. Yeah.
Or you must wear a fake chicken arm on your dominant hand.
Interesting. We all have different ones, because mine is definitely a utensil replacement. Easily.
Right.
But clearly it's not the food. The food replacement is never a bad one.
No, that's always...
that comes down to your skills as a chef. I do want to point out, because I found this in pre-research, they do test these sabotages. Sometimes they test them multiple times, and they test them in combination with the sabotages that could happen in the round. And Alton Brown said that about 20% of the sabotages don't make it because they go, this is too punishing.
Yeah, that makes sense. I mean, you still have to cook food.
Yeah.
I mean, handcuffed to another chef is generally just like the worst thing ever, because one person's going to be more assertive and get the time they need, and the other person's just not.
Yeah.
Right.
You see it all the time, because they cut to the like talking heads, and it's like, this person would just not hurry up.
That's like, my least favorite one to watch, though, because like I just feel bad.
Yeah.
Like, oh, your challenge is that you're connected to a selfish person. Yay.
I've seen the ones actually occasionally I'll see it where the loud talking chef gets like, like handcuffed to somebody, and they just aren't assertive as the person who's just like means business. And like, but I'm such a good chef. And it's like, gee, too bad you can't cook, huh? Because I'm not letting you.
Yep.
And that is emotionally satisfying.
That's true.
That is pretty good. Or like, it's always funnier when they're in a stupider thing than just handcuffed together. Like when they're in the Jamaican bobsled.
Right.
And the other person's always like, I'm really good at controlling the sled. And it's like, great. Have you cooked anything?
I would also say this is probably a pro tip. Don't go on the show if you are French, because everybody will just immediately go, oh, he's French. And then just yell fake French at you and then presume that you are good at cooking and sabotage you, even if you were the nicest man.
Yeah. Oh, rip the French.
Yep.
Anyway,
So,
Ricky,
are we ready to
the
move
final
on to the
round.
final round?
Yeah.
So the final round, of course, I do believe that Ian was onto this and Allison was onto this. The last two things are bid on while you're cooking. And so if you do find yourself behind in money, don't be, first off, because you have an advantage. You have an advantage if you have more money. But if you're behind in money, just keep bidding up the minimum as much money as you have.
Mm-hmm.
Because even if you cannot win, you have the other person distracted and you just can buy more time, especially if it's like about to go to Tiny Kitchen.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, dude, spend 5 minutes going up $100, $100 until you're at your maximum, because you can get more done before the Tiny Kitchen comes.
Yeah.
Like in those extra 3 minutes you buy bartering back and forth with the bid.
It's definitely never going to be 3 minutes, but you're talking about just like waiting out the clock, right?
I'm talking about just like making sure, like, because nobody bids up like big amounts.
Occasionally, you'll see people just like I've seen people definitely. They won. I saw somebody who won with $500 as out of their original $25,000 because anytime there was a sabotage that they didn't want, they would just immediately bid $5,000 over the first person who bids. And it's
yeah, that's a decent strategy. But on the show, they're always like, it's always like bidding starts at 2,000 and it's like 2,100, 2,200. And they just go back and forth. And then one of them will just go, nah, he can have it. Right.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like, if you're losing, like if you are under, first off, you want to make them spend as much of their resources as they can. Mm-hmm. Because if you are like, if you're at like 75% stack, like they have 10,000 left and you have 7,500 left. On the first sabotage, if you can make them spend 7,600, then you win the second sabotage.
Yeah.
Right? So, like, definitely, like, if you are behind, there is ways to play around with it, and you want to make them spend money and also stave off the stupid sabotage for as long as possible because you are still cooking. In the other two rounds, you get the sabotage before you're allowed to cook.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily disagree with any of this, but I've always had this perspective on things, and it's kind of why game shows drive me nuts, is one person is the only one who's going to walk away with money. So, like, you can be mad that your $10,000 isn't your $25,000, or you can walk away with $10,000 that you didn't have. And so when people get, like, really stingy about that kind of stuff, I'm like, it's not me. Like, I'm not that kind. You can't goat me into trying to get more money but have like a way higher risk. They're like, you can go home with $50,000 now, or you can have one more question and win $500,000. And I'm like, no, because then I could lose it all. But you're telling me I could walk home with $50K? Like, goodbye.
This is definitely like the always walk with 64,000 in Who Wants to Be a Millionaire.
Yeah.
Like 64. My general thought is because I like every red-blooded American have dreamed of going onto a game show, being rich, and joining the elite with my newfound thousands of dollars.
Oh yes, I forgot this was my dream.
Right. I've always told myself so. My absolute 100%, I will definitely walk away, never risk it more. Point is a year's salary. If at a year's salary, there's no chance that I would ever risk further. Which of course, 25,000. So that's like, you know, the height of Cutthroat Kitchen. But
right.
No, I think definitely like burning through your capital to sabotage in Cutthroat Kitchen is just simply correct.
Yeah.
If you're planning on getting out of there with more than $1,000, you've almost certainly already lost.
Yeah.
Now people do all the time, and that's great for them. But I think the strategy wise, you got to just presume you're going to spend it all, basically all.
Right.
Right. I've seen somebody win with $3.
Hey, I've seen people win with $0.
They literally made their last bid, and they were like X $1,000 in 7.
But you don't. So the thing is, you don't just win $3. You also win a title, which is incredibly important because in a highly saturated world of people trying to become famous chefs, or just chefs in general, like there's so many good chefs out there. You become the winner of Cutthroat Kitchen, and that's a big deal to take away. Because there was one guy who was on the show. He's like, "I'm just here to win. Screw the money, whatever." He didn't win, but he was there to win, just to take the title away. And I was kind of like, yeah, dude, that's probably way more important. Like, even if you're a nobody from, like, I don't know, Lubbock, Texas, and you're like, hey, I won Cutthroat Kitchen once, they're going to be like, you're hired.
It's also, I think, a good point. So most of these people are recycled Food Network show contestants.
Makes sense.
Food, like this is why, like, it's like Top Chef on Bravo is a I think probably that's a whole nother kettle of metagame, but it's semi-fair. But one of the downsides of Top Chef is I don't know if they sign non-compete contracts or what, but I've never seen, or like once I've seen somebody who's crossed over the Bravo Food Network divide. Like, once you're on a Food Network show, you are almost certainly going to show up on other Food Network shows.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And I think that's super important because on another Food Network shows, A, you can advertise. And B, hey, more chances at money, right?
Right. Well, and Ian, you also brought this point up a while ago, but it was like, if you have the right kind of personality, you will be asked back everywhere. Like, Survivor did this, and maybe Survivor went on for like 50 years too long, but they've got like favorites return 1, 2, and 3, and it's always the same people because they just want to see them over and over again. So there's an element to just being the most likable or the most ridiculous one on the show. Be remembered.
Which reminds me, hey, so Ricky, at one point we're going to do a RuPaul episode, right?
Oh, there's no math in the entire universe that could work out your chances to RuPaul.
There is metagame.
I was going to say that what you really want to do is win Cutthroat Kitchen, because if you're on Cutthroat Kitchen, it means you lost in Chopped.
Almost certainly.
And
or next Food Network star. I've seen
Cutthroat Kitchen. Do you know where you're headed next?
Guys Grocery Games?
Guys Grocery Games. That hell pit of a show. I love it. But once again, that show, you can't account for the chaos that is Guy Fieri. There is, once again, no amount of probability or mathing or strategy that can get you out of Guy Fieri just taking the spinning wheel and just stopping it and going, I decided you're going to do this now.
Yeah.
Or just coming at you and just throwing a brick of frozen Brussels sprouts and goes, Brussels sprouts is an ingredient now.
Oh my god, I remembered what made me so mad. She literally sent this one chick home who actually made the dish because she had too much basil in it, so it didn't remind her of chicken tikka masala. But then one guy just like had some chicken on a plate with like paprika over it, and she went home because she's like, it's too Italian. And I'm like, she made the dish. It's the female judge, now that I think about it. I don't like the female judge, turns out.
She's actually, in my ranking of judges, I feel bad because I used to know all their names. It's been a while. I don't remember her name. She's my least favorite Food Network judge. She shows up in other shows and she's a fine judge. She's my least favorite my least favorite Cutthroat Kitchen judge. And then second favorite is Jai, and then top is Simon Majumdar.
I don't think I know who Jai is.
Jai's maybe I'm getting his name wrong.
I only know the two. There's the bald guy and the girl.
There's the bald guy, the bald British guy, the woman, and the Asian guy, which is incredibly insensitive, and I'm so sorry. But he's like, Jai is like, he's fair. He doesn't have a lot of whimsy, but he'll be, I don't know, less capricious. Simon Majumdar, I think, is the most generous, and I just generally enjoy seeing him.
Is the best because he's just like laughing the whole time. He takes a bite of something awful, and he's just like, well, chef, I don't think that this reminds me exactly of my mother's cooking, and just like walks away.
He is a treasure.
Which is, like I said, funny because he is the Simon on a different show. So
I'm looking at the judges right now, and the girl that's showing up is not the one that I saw. It was some older lady.
There's a Courtney, I believe. There's also, the judges have definitely changed over the a couple of times.
Yeah,
I know, like some of the Iron Chefs come on as judges too. I'm pretty sure I've seen Kat on there.
Right. Oh yeah, Kat. Kat Cora wasn't even on. So I'm often.
Oh, she was a guest judge. Never mind.
Oh, who was it?
Susan Feniger.
Oh no, don't know her at all.
Yeah.
But it's definitely like it depends on the season. I'm normally bound by. So I think Food Network currently has a contract with Hulu. I think they're almost all on Hulu. They used to all be on
Hulu. Yeah.
They used to all be on Netflix. But it's only like there are 14 seasons. Sadly, the show is now canceled, which is too bad.
Cutthroat Kitchen is canceled?
Yep, as of last year or the year before.
Yeah.
Because Alton Brown wasn't a big fan of it.
Well, it's not about cooking, so.
Right. He also didn't like being mean so much. I mean, he had put on the supervillain persona. He's really good at it. He's supposedly kind of standoffish in real life. He's a complicated man, quote unquote, which usually means he's rude when you ask him questions in public, which is, I think, totally fair for a celebrity. But he's definitely not like the kindest celebrity out there. So you'd think he'd like Cutthroat Kitchen, but he's just like more interested in his own jam.
I mean, like, have you watched Good Eats? Like, it screams like film school project.
I never liked Alton Brown.
It really does. And then he went through recently and redid all of his Good Eats.
This is what he did for. This is what he left Cutthroat Kitchen for. I will say I love Alton Brown specifically in Iron Chef America because he doesn't have time. It's not his ego at play at all. It's just him just like rattling off food knowledge as absolutely quickly and accurately as he can. And I think that he is at his best in Iron Chef America.
So let's wrap this up. Do you think you could win this show?
No.
Wow.
Not a chance.
It just requires too much specific cooking knowledge.
I think that I could make the last round. I think the last round is a little too skill intensive. Even if you're up in money, it's just too easy to make a mistake somewhere along the line. I feel like I would spend too much money in the first two rounds to make it there. I do think that there is a path to victory through just getting not sabotaged and spending money on the right sabotages. The game, I think, is a little too random to completely game out.
Yeah.
As shown with the judges being completely just random sometimes. But I do think, what do you think would be the best tip? Of all the tips we came up with, of all the strategies we came up with today, Allison, what do you think is your best tip?
Hang on to all of your utensils.
Very good tip. Ian.
Mandatory. Like if you have all your utensils, you're going to make it further than anyone else. So anytime a sabotage comes up that risks you losing your utensils, give it to somebody else. I don't even think you have to play the sabotage game that well. If you maintain utensils throughout the whole thing, you're going to win. Guaranteed. I'm lying. I don't know. But that is what I would take away from it more than anything.
I think it's a good tip. Ian?
Yeah.
If I'm restricted to just one tip, I think the number one tip, the tip that serves you the best through all the rounds is don't trash talk, don't interact, and don't paint a target. And just keep your head down and cook.
This makes sense for you, Ian.
I think
maybe it does.
I think you could win. I mean, if you took that advice, I think you would be good at it.
Possibly.
I think
I just have to know that you got to skin every papaya you see. I take it back. That's my one tip. Skin every papaya. Your opponent's papayas. Grab their papayas, skin them.
I think the best tip is just avoid all teamwork based sabotages. I think they are a death sentence for one of you. And if you don't feel like you can be that jerk on TV that just drags the old, like, 50-year-old chef woman around while you're handcuffed to her, then you're just going to lose.
I'm not nearly as scared of those as you are.
Around.
I'm not scared of that. I would just yeet that person away, like, no big deal. Like, if we're all three in a clown car, I'm just running for it.
But see, like,
we're either all losing or I'm winning.
Allison, you're small. When you yeet people, you are like being a strong individual. When I do it, I'm bullying.
I want to point out that I've never known you to shy away from this, Ricky. I believe you've got the competitive edge. I really want to see the bobsled challenge between Ricky and Allison, because I know in the clown car challenge I lose immediately, but I don't know who wins in the Ricky Allison matchup.
We go back and forth.
I will tell you right now, if me and Ricky are put together and it's like the clown car thing, which is essentially just like who can walk one direction the strongest. it's gonna be Ricky. Ricky's gonna win the direction, but I become the new Sabotage. We're talking like accidental like elbows to the ribs and like, oh, did I drop something on your cutting board? Oh, I didn't mean to spit all over your food. What is that? My hair? I'm so sorry. Like, you gotta play. If someone's playing dirty, you gotta play dirtier. Just go for it.
I changed my answer. Allison is my favorite Sabotage.
Well, guys, this has been Metagame show host. This has been Allison, Ian, and I'm your host, Ricky. Come back next week where we're going to talk about another game show, a little bit of math, and a lot of fun. Also, in the comments, please suggest other game shows. We got tons planned, but we always want to hear more. And give us your best tip for Cutthroat Kitchen. You guys want to add anything on to the outro here?
Nah, that was good.
Nope. See y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.